Welcome into the weekend wrap-up with Trevor Junt. I'm your host, Trevor Junt. This is Drew Amburgy. On today's show, we'll have Drew, we'll have Danny Flynn, and we'll have Sam Taylor. In the show, we cover all the NFL games that happened in the weekend with a 2-minute timer. With that being said, let's get started. Okay, let's get into the games. Drew, what is your first game?
So my first game is at Carolina, Atlanta. So kind of a snooze fest in this one. Now, Carolina did come away with a 19-13 win. It was kind of a little crazy from the start. Carolina turned it over on the first play of the game. They went on to get a field goal out of that. It was tied at 3 after the first. It was kind of a defensive battle, obviously pretty low score there. Cordarrelle Patterson went down and got a touchdown for Atlanta. I mean, how good has he been for them this year, coming out of nowhere? Zane Gonzalez basically kept Carolina alive in the first half. He did all the scoring with 3 field goals and a 57-yarder to end the half. In the second half, Frankie Louvu got a sack, the old Coug player, so go Cougs on that one. Nice to see him having success in the league. Darnold had some great rushes in this game, but one too many because actually on that last touchdown run, he got lit up and probably has a concussion. So they'll be going with P.J. Walker, the old XFL player from here on out. But, you know, the Panthers win and keep their playoff hopes alive. The defense looked really good for them. You know, Josh Norman, that was a great addition by them. Newsflash, he's still good at football. And the Falcons just didn't look very good today. And, you know, the Panthers stay afloat and get back to 500. What did you think on the game?
Well, sorry to correct you, it's Stephon Gilmore.
What did I say?
You said Josh Norman, but that's fine.
You are so right.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Josh Norman's on the Niners. But Stephon Gilmore, I mean, what the heck? First game back, and he makes the game-winning interception,
Yeah.
game-closing interception. Shaq Thompson, also a really important part of their defense. He came back, so I thought that was notable. And then he made some game-changing plays. Shaq Thompson had 10 tackles and 1 interception. And then Matt Ryan, man, I don't know. Like, some weeks he's awful, some weeks he plays well. I gave him praise last week, and then he looks worse than like a backup this week. He went 20 for 27, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 67.8 passer rating. And the Falcons are still awful. I mean, they tried to pull a trick on us to say, hey, look, we're kind of good. Maybe we're feisty in the playoffs. But, no, I think they're still bad. And then no Kyle Pitts either. Kyle Pitts, 2 receptions for 13 yards.
Just a blank all day. And honestly, when they can't get him going, that's pretty much their offense.
I was going to say that too, yeah.
That's pretty much it.
It looks like when he actually has a good game, they have a good game.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's kind of the key to unlocking that whole offense because he can really just stretch the whole defense. And, you know, when they get him going, then they can get the rushing game going. But it's just nothing for them all day.
And it's weird because Arthur Smith, the head coach, used to coach for the Titans. He was the offensive coordinator. And he had Derrick Henry. And usually if Derrick Henry had a good game, they won the game. So I understand how he doesn't see the connection yet.
I don't know. I hasn't figured it out. But, yeah, NFC South matchup battle there. I mean, realistically, one of these teams might be going to the playoffs. Like, this game may have had playoff implications, which is kind of ugly to say because it was – I mean, if you watch the game, it just – did not look like 2 teams that should be going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was an interesting one. Shout out Carolina. The defense stepped up, and they got the win.
True. Their defense is better than people expected coming in the season, at least.
Mm-hmm. The next game I have for you is L.A. Rams versus Houston Texans. Now, this one was not close from the get-go. 38-22, L.A. came out on top. L.A. looked unbelievable. I mean, it is Houston, but still, they were up 38-0 at one point. Somehow, Houston scored 22 unanswered points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And if you had any bets on the game, they did cover. So, you know, good teams win, great teams cover. So take that how you want. But, no, this one was all L.A. Stafford was awesome again. I think he's the front runner for MVP for some people out there. You know, another 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnover game. And, man, Cooper Kupp. I mean, he goes for another 100-yard game. I mean, you got to consider him in the top wide receivers in the game. You know, he's not too flashy, but, God, he just gets open all the time. He's open all the time. Every single highlight I see from him, he's 10 yards away from the nearest defender. So Cooper Kupp was awesome. And you know what? This is not related to the game, but the Rams defense looked amazing, and they're going to be getting Von Miller soon.
Jeez.
So the Rams are fully back in that conversation of Super Bowl contenders, and then they're going to get an even boost next week. So what did you think about the game?
First off, that Von Miller edition is wild.
Yeah.
They're stacking. So I think they only have a 5th-round pick next year. By the
How
way.
do they even have more picks? I honestly believe that McVay just gives away picks that he doesn't even have and just hopes nobody actually checks. I hope he's just like, I'll give you a 2nd and a 3rd.
Also, cap space.
Yeah.
Cap space doesn't exist for the Rams.
No, it's unbelievable. I don't understand how they do it. They just picks and cap space. There's just no limit. They'll just give them all up.
It's insane.
The Rams are going to have to focus on one pick next year.
Which is kind of nice at the same time. You know?
Not bad, not bad.
But my main story from this game was Cooper Kupp. I mean, lately he had 7 receptions in this game for 115 and a touchdown, and then he's the first player in the Super Bowl era with 900 receiving yards, 10 reception TDs in their first games of the season. The last guys to do this were Elroy Estridge, or I don't know how to say this, Elroy Hirsch in 1951, Bobby Mitchell in 1962, and Billy Houghton in 1956. He's on pace for 133 catches, 1,963 yards, and 21 touchdowns. I think he's the offensive player of the year. That's what I think.
He's certainly in that conversation. I think he definitely does have a good case. I mean, at this point in the season, it might be his to lose. Obviously, we got a lot of season left for us.
True.
But yeah, he's just impressive, and I mean, it's his route running is just unbelievable, and hands. I mean, just doesn't drop anything. So whenever you can get separation and don't drop the ball, and then you got a great quarterback like that, you're probably going to put up some monster stats.
And then on the Texans are probably one of the most talent-poor rosters I've seen in the league.
Yeah.
Like Texans, Jags, Lions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't name. I could name one defensive player on their roster before I looked it up.
I don't think I could name one. I'm not even going to lie.
Justin Reed's the only one I could name. And then looking at the roster, they had Vernon Hargreaves III, who's from Tampa. They have Christian Kirksey, the guy from the Browns. And then Kevin Pierre-Louis. You remember him as a Seahawk?
Oh, yeah.
They have that guy. They don't have anybody on their roster that's notable. They have Brandon Cooks on offense, a run-down Philip Lindsay, a practically dead David Johnson, and a 4th-rounder at quarterback. It's tough for Texans fans, for David Coley, for Davis Mills. I don't know. It's hard to put up with.
I did know Davis Mills, and they did have Mark Ingram, but they just got rid of him and sent him to the Saints. And unfortunate for them, they had players tweeting out what the heck after they got rid of Mark Ingram. That's never good to get rid of a guy that's favored by a lot in the locker room. So yeah, I hate the direction of the Texans. And I don't see them being good anytime soon. But good luck, Davis Mills. It's going to be a rough one out there for you.
Your next game is New England and the Chargers?
Yeah, so I got a little Patriots-Chargers action. This game was actually awesome. This one was back and forth all game. First touchdown for the Chargers by Eckler was one of those awesome runs where he gets stood up at the 5 and the whole offensive line pushes him into the end zone. I love those kind of plays where it's just mano-a-mano out there. Mac Jones played well. I mean, he had quite a few incompletions, but you know what? Didn't make any mistakes. And honestly, at this point, if he can consistently not make any mistakes, put points on the board, I think that's all New England really needs because the rest of the team started to play really well. The important thing for him is just no mistakes. Herbert didn't look that great.
True.
Herbert has had a couple of down weeks in a row after looking like world beaters at 4-1. The Patriots come out on top on this one. Chargers got to be a little bit concerned. 4-1 had all the momentum in the world, and now they're sitting at 4-3 after this loss to New England. So I'd be a little bit concerned if I was them because if you start to let these things spiral out of control, you go from a team that was a Super Bowl contender to a team that who knows if they're going to make the playoffs.
It's funny how the switch just got flipped,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what happened with them. The offense has definitely regressed the last couple of weeks. And then, you know what? The Patriots just had a really good game plan for them. And the defense has been playing well for them.
And Bill Belichick always knows how to mess with young quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It concerns me a bit. I'm a Justin Herbert fan. I think he's a good player. But I'm not wavering on Justin Herbert. I'm not a fan of him yet. I think he'll bounce back. Good quarterbacks always bounce back, after tough games like this. So we'll see next week. And then on Mac Jones, you're right, just managed the game really well. They ran the ball 39 times for a combined 141. And then, I don't know, the Pats had that pick six to take a lead, and then
the pick six was bad. The pick six was a bad throw by Herbert. He had a couple of bad throws.
He did.
There was a couple ones where the ball just didn't even hit hands of the wide receiver. So yeah, I wonder what's going on with him. Part of it definitely has to be the Patriots, though. Bill Belichick was talking about all the pre-snap motion, that type of stuff. Just kind of giving them different looks, not knowing who's blitzing, who's not. And Belichick's just the best at that. So it's just tough for him.
That was actually a big deal. The blitzing was working well against him, and also just faking the coverage was working well on him. So are you a bit worried about Justin Herbert, or worried about the Chargers of the team, I guess?
I'm a little bit concerned as a team. I think Justin Herbert's awesome. Bad game. Couple of not so great games in a row. But I think he'll get it figured out. I mean, he's young, second-year player. You're going to have growing pains even after you're looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. It's just going to happen with guys that are only 2 years out of college. So I'm not too worried about them. As a team, though, I do think there's some weaknesses that they really do need to focus on. So they need to regroup, get it together, and get ready for this final stretch down the season because with Justin Herbert still on his rookie deal, you really do need to try and take advantage and make a Super Bowl run while he's still on that rookie deal. I don't think you really have time to mess around. You got a roster with a lot of talent on it, so they need to make the corrections and get this thing figured out soon because you really want to take advantage of it with your quarterback on a rookie deal.
The front seven of the Chargers really concerns me.
Yeah.
Their DBs are amazing, and then the front seven is Joey Bosa, and that's about it.
That's about it. Yeah.
But
linebackers not that impressive. They got some good guys in the DBs or in the DBs in the secondary. But yeah, just didn't look that impressive yesterday. Mac Jones looked pretty comfortable back there, so a little concerning.
And then let's jump into two of my games. Mm-hmm. Let's do the Washington football team in Denver first. So Denver, they got a win against another bad team in my eyes. I mean, their defense looked well. It looked like probably the best they've played all season. They had 5 sacks and 2 interceptions, but they just traded Von Miller to the Rams.
Yeah.
Von Miller didn't really do much yesterday, though. He only has 19 tackles and 4.5 sacks in the year. He's at the tail end of his career in my eyes. So I don't know. We'll see about that. And then Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater has never been anything special to me. He went 19 for 26, 213 yards and 1 touchdown. People call me a hater on Teddy Bridgewater, and if so, if calling him bad, I'm a hater. Then I'll admit it. He's a nice guy. He's a great guy.
Hey, he's a good guy.
He just can't make plays happen on the field. And then on the Washington football side, Taylor Heineke. I mean, he's trying his best. I feel bad for the guy. He's doing the best he can. He's just not playing well. They had 8 drives instead of the 40 of Denver, and they just couldn't finish them. Heineke went 24 for 39 for 270 yards, one touchdown and 2 interceptions. And Terry McLaurin was missing. He had 3 catches for 23 yards. Antonio Gibson loves to disappear in games. He had 8 carries for 34 yards. And then just on the Washington football team, they had such high hopes going into the season, and then nothing is happening.
Yeah, I thought they had a chance to really actually make a push for the division. Honestly, I mean, I didn't know Dallas was going to be this good.
True.
But I did think they had a shot, at least for the wild card. But after this one, it might just be time to pack it in and try to get a high draft pick because obviously Heineke's not going to be the guy at quarterback. You completely whiffed on Dwayne Haskins. One of the worst draft picks in a long time.
True.
One of the worst busts in a while. So I think at this point it might be time to just try and start over. And the thing that sucks for them is there really isn't that many great of quarterbacks in the draft this year.
The
So
big
maybe
issue.
just get another guy on defense or just a playmaker on offense and try and get as high of a pick as possible. But, yeah, I think Denver's defense just played really, really well. I don't know if Von Miller knew it was going to be his last game for Denver, so maybe they played fire up for that, or maybe because Peyton Manning was getting into the ring of honor for Denver. Maybe that's why they came out so fired up. But, man, Washington really couldn't get much going all day. And, you know, Melvin Gordon actually had a pretty good day for Denver as well, too. He might have been the actual difference in the game. He might have looked like one of the best players on the field. But, yeah, that was just a tough one for Washington. And that's probably a season ender right there. And you might as well just pack it up and call it good. And then Denver, how weird to go from winning a game to Von Miller's gone immediately. You know, that kind of is a weird message from the organization too. But, you know, I do understand it. I mean, it might be just rebuild time in Denver. It was kind of weird, though, because their defense is still good.
I think they're also fighting for a playoff position,
Yeah,
too.
so it was so weird to get rid of one of your best players right after getting a win that kind of might give you some momentum. Who knows? But I don't know what Denver's doing with that one, but maybe they just thought he's getting older and get something while they can.
I think they're getting a second and a third round pick for him.
Second and a third rounder, yeah, is what I heard as well, too. Do I think they could have gotten a first rounder? Yeah, probably from somebody. So I don't know if they necessarily needed to give him to the Rams. Definitely didn't do the Seahawks any help. But, yeah, that was an interesting move from them.
And then my next game is Tennessee and Indianapolis. Tennessee had a rough start. Ryan Tannehill threw two interceptions to start the game, but then he bounced back in the second quarter with a pass to A.J. Brown, who just took it to the house, 57 yards. Tannehill ended up with 23 completions for 33 attempts, 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. A.J. Brown had himself quite a day. After a disappointing season, I would say so far, he exploded for 10 receptions, 155 yards, and 1 touchdown. The Titans are now 6-2 in the top of their division. Let's hop into Indianapolis, and then we'll go back to the Titans. Wentz has been looking good all season, but in this game, man, he just looked awful at some points.
You
It was
got
just
the
really
full
bad.
gamut of the Wentz experience in this game. I mean, at times looking like amazing, threading the needle, finding guys, controlling the offense, and then just throwing 2 of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in my entire life. And that's Carson Wentz.
Yeah, true. That is Carson Wentz.
That's Carson Wentz.
But he should not be throwing them all 51 times. That's
No.
too many times.
No, especially when you have Jonathan Taylor back
Yeah.
there. I mean, one of the better running backs in the league, and you're putting the ball in Wentz, who is known to make some mistakes.
So and then Frank Reich, I thought called a good game, but they were up 14-0 at one point, and then blew the lead.
Yeah.
I think it was they were gonna score. They went for it on 4th down, and there was a wide open pass to the end zone, and Wentz just missed it. So they just ended up being 14-0, and they turned over the ball. But like I said, 51 times is too many times.
Yeah, but how good did Pittman look?
Pittman looked amazing.
Ooh.
10 receptions for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He was unbelievable. And he's really the reason why Indianapolis was even in this game. Because if you told me that Tannehill had 2 picks, Derrick Henry only had 68 yards, I would have told you that Tennessee probably lost by 20. But A.J. Brown was so awesome with 155 in the touchdown that kind of kept him in the game until they were able to come out and win it in overtime.
And then going back to the Titans, I mean, let's speak on Derrick Henry for a moment. We had big news today.
Yeah.
He has a Jones fracture in his foot, which I think it just means like he broke a bone near his toe.
Mhm.
I'm not a doctor. I can't.
I just play one on TV, right?
Yeah, exactly. I can't tell you. And then he said Ian Rappaport reported that he'd be out 6 to 8 weeks, but they expect to have him back this season. However, so I mean probably like week 18. I mean there's 18 weeks this season, so probably around then, and then in the playoffs they'll be ready. But it sucks, man. It sucks for the Titans being 6-2 in top of the division. It feels like they have it on wraps. Like it feels like they have this division, but they could choke it, I guess, without their main piece.
Well, he's so important to their offense.
Yes.
It's just going to be a completely different look for them. I mean, who else can you hand the ball off to that
Adrian
many times
Peterson's
and just
apparently.
wear a defense down?
Oh,
and
true.
yeah, they signed Adrian Peterson, see how that one goes. He's
What is he, like 38
He's a little
now?
bit older. Who knows? Maybe he's so rest up from not playing for a while. But nobody can really wear defense down like he does, and it just helps out Tannehill in the offense so much. So it's going to be such a different look for them. But I have faith in Vrabel, and Tannehill's a good quarterback. I do think they'll be able to stay afloat, probably still win the division. Very weak division this year.
True.
Besides Tennessee. And but yeah, it kind of sucks because he's such an awesome player to watch, and I was looking forward to it. But yeah, it sucks. But it is good that it's not necessarily going to be a season-ending injury. And who knows? Maybe him just resting up and getting ready, and then coming back right before the playoffs. He might be a different animal when he comes back.
That's tough for all the fantasy owners too. I have in multiple leagues, man, and that sucks. But I mean, I feel bad for the player as well. I mean, but the Titans are at the top of the AFC right now, I believe. I think they're the first seed. So, so they're succeeding
with that Bengals loss.
Yeah.
Head scratcher on
was
that
tough,
one. But yeah, Tennessee was looking pretty good, and probably shouldn't have won this game, but Indianapolis kind of gave it to them, and they took advantage.
So without without Derrick Henry, what do you think happens to Tennessee then?
Tennessee, I mean, I'd have to take a look at like the schedule game by game. I think they'll still win the division, but they're definitely going to lose 2 or 3 games, I think, in here that they would have won if Derrick Henry was still there, because he is so important to their game. I mean, the game against the Seahawks, they lose that game if they don't have Derrick Henry.
True.
Because he was unbelievable in the second half, and that's what he can do, is just wear defense down, and then in the second half just break these runs and really just run over defenders as the game goes on. So I expect them to lose a few that they would have won if they had Derrick Henry. I still think they're going to win their division, but it's going to be a little bit closer now, and I don't see them getting a bye or maybe even the second seed.
Well, again, Drew, thank you very much for coming on the show. You're a regular guest. Yeah, we enjoy you here. I enjoy talking football with you. You're a great guest, and you know your stuff very well, too, and I appreciate
that, man. Anytime, Trevor.
And then follow Drew on social media. It's at Drew_6_ is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then on Twitter, it's just Drew Amburgy. You can find him there.
There you go.
Again, man, great job, and I appreciate
right.
having you. Awesome.
Cool.
Welcome back to the Weekend Wrap-Up with Trevor Junt. I'm your host, Trevor Junt, and this is Danny Flynn. Follow him on social media at dd.flynn. So, Danny, let's get into your games. What is your first game that you want to talk about?
Let's do it. Let's talk about Jets and the Bengals.
Okay.
I think that was the most entertaining of all the matchups. The Jets ended up beating the Bengals 34-31, upsetting them. The Jets are now 2-5. The Bengals are 5-3. Really impressive win for the Jets, not going to lie. I mean, this is with an injured Zach Wilson, and they're working with the 2018 fifth-round draft pick, Mike White.
Mike White, baby.
Mike White.
This is the weekend for the backup quarterback.
It really is. Well, he threw for 405 yards, only missed 8 passes, 37 for 45, and 3 touchdowns. And he joins Cam Newton as actually the only players since 1950 to throw for over 400 yards in their first start.
Wow. He's also the first player in the Jets to throw for 400 yards in 327 games since Vinny Testaverde did it.
Oh, no way. But, I mean, yeah. The Bengals' defense, to me, looked flat. Coming into the season, they're being talked about as a top 10 defense. And they'd been playing, pretty sharp throughout the season, but they looked pretty vulnerable against New York this weekend.
They had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter and blew that, too. They were the number 1 seed. They dropped to 5-3, and now they're the 5th seed.
Yeah.
That can't happen if you want to compete in the AFC.
No, it's way too competitive.
And then Joe Burrow, he played well for most of the game, 21 for 34, 259, 3 touchdowns and the interception. But the interception was a crucial interception in the fourth quarter. Burrow has 5 picks in the fourth quarter of the season, and that leads the league. That's just not excusable,
Yeah, no. Can't be doing that if they want to be the playoff contenders that they hope to be.
And then speaking on the defense, I thought the defense was supposed to be good. They were good the past few weeks. They were outstanding the past few weeks. Mm-hmm. Now they did this. They lost to the Jets. So speaking on, let's say, Cincinnati. Do you think Cincinnati can fight their way back to the top seed? And like realistically, where do you see them landing at the end of the season?
See, I like Cincinnati. I think that especially the connection between Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase has been phenomenal this season. But they are a very young team, and I think with youth comes inexperience. And I think that as they progress throughout the season, that inexperience might start to show itself at some point. And but I think that they will be good for at least a few years to come now, though. I think that they have enough pieces that as long as they can stay healthy, that they'll be able to get the job done.
And then the Jets. Last week I was like calling them a joke. Basically, I was clowning on them, calling their wins inexcusable. This win doesn't exactly change my mind either. I understand they beat Cincinnati. I understand they beat Tennessee, but they're still a terrible team in my eyes.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, the Jets didn't play like phenomenally. Like it was more the Bengals falling apart from my eyes. I mean, Mike White, great game, but I mean he didn't throw a pass that was longer than 15 yards. I mean they were just like incrementally picking them away throughout the entire game.
Yeah. Well, that's why Michael Carter, I guess, had 9 receptions. You know.
Yeah.
Well, cool. And then let's go into your next game then.
All right, let's talk about the Seahawks. Seahawks, I mean, finally ending their 3-game skid. They beat the Jaguars 31-7. The Hawks are now 3-5, and the Jaguars are 1-6. I mean, it looks great. Geno Smith, to me, looked dialed in, 20 for 24, 195 yards passing. And I mean, Lockett and Metcalf, man, I don't know what else to say about them. Lockett, 13 targets, 12 receptions for 142 yards and what should have been a touchdown. Metcalf, he had 6 targets, 6 receptions, perfect there, 43 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And he was going against Shaquille Griffin.
And he was going against Shaquille Griffin, and he had that one where he mossed him right at the end zone and just snagged it
right over his head, dude. Too small.
Phenomenal. And so it's great to see that the Seahawks finally getting a win under their belt. It was.
Speaking of Geno too, he started off 13 for 13.
13 for 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was hot right off the bat. And I mean, not too many mistakes too. I mean, he played relatively like in pocket. He had 1 sack where he dropped back a little bit too far and ate some yardage there for a loss. But for the most part, he played, I mean, well enough. And I mean, for the Jaguars, that threshold isn't very high, but impressive nonetheless.
And then Seattle is also hitting their bye week this week. And Russell Wilson today posted that he got the pin taken out of his finger.
I think I saw that.
Yeah, so it's like recovery. And then so hopefully he'll be back for the game against Green Bay. I'd like to see Russell Wilson back for sure. He's fun to watch.
He is a lot of fun to watch. And I mean, fingers crossed, but I also don't want to see Seattle rush him back too soon.
Yeah, I'd agree.
That he just like re-injures it or something. I think it'd be in Seattle's best interest to take a cautious approach to returning Wilson.
I'd agree with that. I just don't know how much Russell Wilson would want to like be cautious, you know?
That's also true.
And then Trevor Lawrence did not look good either. He was throwing very inaccurate passes the entire game. He was 32 for 54, 238, 1 interception and 1 touchdown, and the touchdown was in garbage time. There was like less than a minute left. In my opinion, Urban Meyer is the worst coach in the NFL. He's an awful coach. I think he should be fired. I mean, move on to somebody else that will work with Trevor Lawrence. I don't know. At some point, you just have to admit that you made a mistake and move on. I think they need to go to that spot, admit they made a mistake, and get a different coach. You can't waste like these precious years with Lawrence. These are important years. Rookie years for like the top like 5 years. Super important to developing a quarterback in the NFL. So I don't know. I would say get a like quarterback whisperer type. Those young quarterbacks. I mean, like Cliff Kingsbury, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, people like that. You gotta get somebody young and somebody that will like help your quarterback.
Yeah.
So,
and,
go ahead.
I mean, the program has been bad for so long too that I mean you can't point the fingers at the players necessarily because the players have been changing. I mean, over the past years. I mean, when was the last time the Jacksonville Jaguars were like a playoff contender, like anywhere remotely close to being good?
It was at 2017. They had Blake Bortles and a good defense, but after that they just fell apart.
Yeah.
And even before that they weren't good. And then so Seattle is half a game back from the playoffs with the potential of Russell Wilson coming back. Do you see them nabbing like a wild card spot possibly, or do you think they just won't make the playoffs?
I mean, I a little bit biased in my take here, but yeah, I think the Seahawks are gonna make the playoffs, especially if Wilson can come back healthy and start performing at, hopefully at a higher level than he had been performing this year, just because I don't think that they were playing at playoff level even before he was injured. But yeah, I think that the Seahawks are going to get the wild card spot this year.
Okay. And then one more question about Jacksonville. How do you think you fix, I don't know, the Jacksonville culture, Jacksonville overall?
Oh, God.
You think there is a way to fix it?
They need to get to a new city. I don't know what else they can do at this point. New head coach, like you said, they got a young guy who's invigorating and is in tune with the modern style of offense in the NFL. They should be able to turn things around. But I don't think that they're going to be doing that this year, and it's doubtful that next year's the year too.
Yeah. Okay, and then what is your next game? Philadelphia and Detroit?
Philadelphia and Detroit, yeah, we
Okay.
can talk about that one. So with the Eagles absolutely annihilating the Detroit Lions, 44-6. Eagles are now 3-5, and the Lions 0-8.
Ooh.
That's tough. That hurts. I mean, they say winning an NFL game is one of the toughest things you can do in sports, and well, the Detroit Lions are a prime example of
Yeah.
that. What I loved about this game, though, is that the Philadelphia Eagles were finally running the football, even with injured Miles Sanders. They had Boston Scott and Jordan Howard, the two backs splitting for the Eagles. They each had a pair of touchdowns and 12 carries each, 60 and 57 yards respectively. And Jalen Hurts leading the squad in rushing yards, 71 of them.
Yeah, they ran it down their throat 46 times for 236 and 4 touchdowns. Jeez, that's a dominant game.
It's a dominant game, and I mean, I really don't understand why the Eagles haven't been running as aggressively in their past games this season. I mean, they've got Miles Sanders, like he's a top 10 running back in the league, and I think that they're criminally underutilizing him in the backfield.
The Lions played super hard the past few weeks, by the way, and then just forgot to show up for this game. I think they just didn't. They weren't there.
Yeah, no, and especially when they're down with such a vast deficit early on, I can imagine it being tough mentally to really give your all to the game when you're just getting pummeled, and every possession that the Eagles are having, they're first down after first down, just long drives straight down. I thought the Eagles' defense also looked really good.
They did look good.
I mean, they held the Lions to 6 points. Had 6 sacks, forced 3 fumbles. Darius Slay, he scooped up a fumble and ran it back for a 33-yard score.
The Eagles' defense is always so up and down for me.
Yeah.
I see them really good and then really bad one week, really good, really bad. You know.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have their off weeks, but I mean, I think for the most part, they're a respectable defense in the league.
And then on the Lions, man, I think seriously, I think it might finish 0-7. I mean 0-17. There's no solid quarterback at the top of the draft either.
Yeah.
We talked about that earlier in the show. There's Matt Corral and there's Malik Willis. There's no actual good quarterback at the top of the draft. They play the Steelers, the Browns, the Bears, the Vikings, the Broncos, the Cardinals, the Falcons, the Seahawks, and the Packers. Where is a win coming from?
Yeah, I really don't see a win in that schedule.
Maybe the Broncos or the Falcons, or maybe a shocker beating the Seahawks or the Packers somewhere. But I just don't see a win coming. And you don't either?
Yeah, I mean, I would be. If the Lions were to beat any of those teams, it would be an upset. It would take a phenomenal game out of them to beat any of those programs.
So okay, if you're at the top of the draft, there's the best player available is Kayvon Thibodeau. He plays for Oregon. There's a tackle, Evan Neal, or a quarterback that's not a guarantee, like Matt Corral or Malik Willis. Would you pick that quarterback, or would you be willing to take the best player available and just wait another year or so? What do you think?
I mean, personally, I think they got to go for the quarterback. It's just the quarterback right now is just not cutting it, and I think that if they're bringing somebody new, and I mean, like the college career of a quarterback doesn't necessarily dictate how they're going to perform in the league, and so I think that if they should just hope and pray that the quarterback that they do pick up is a step up and moves in the right direction.
Yeah. It's tough for me too. I think I would cave on Thibodeau, but yeah, quarterback is like so important, man. You got to get a good one. So I understand what you're saying. And then Justin Fields, Justin Herbert didn't look great in college, and then he comes in and explodes in the NFL.
Yeah,
so we'll
exactly.
see. And then your next game is Buffalo and Miami.
Buffalo and Miami, yes. This one also pretty expected outcome. The Bills end up beating the Dolphins 26-11. Bills are now 5-2. Dolphins 1-7. This is their second time playing this year. Back in September, Buffalo blew them out 35-0. And I mean, first half, Dolphins looked all right. I mean, it's 3-3 going into halftime, but I think it was more just the Bills like wearing off the rust of their bye week, because as soon as the second half hit, it was basically over.
Yeah.
Josh Allen.
All the time.
He hits Gabriel Davis late in the third on a short 8-yard score. He hit Stephon Diggs early in the fourth on a 19-yard shot, and then even ran it in with like a minute left in the fourth. He led the game, or led the Bills in passing yards and rushing yards. He had 249 passing yards and 2 touchdowns passing, the ones. And then 8 rushes for 55 yards. This guy's really doing it all.
I agree.
And especially with Derrick Henry now being injured and his MVP candidate season coming to an unfortunate end, I say Josh Allen's the #1 MVP candidate.
He looks like it to me as well. I'd agree on that. I think Cole Beasley. Okay, he's an unvaccinated. You ever heard his rapping stuff too?
I haven't heard Cole Beasley's rapping.
Cole Beasley is an unvaccinated rapping menace in my eyes. But he had quite a game. He had 10 receptions for 110 yards.
He's been having great games too.
Oh man, and he deleted his Twitter too because people were going after him. So he said just nod of that and he deleted his Twitter. So I thought that was funny. And then on the Bills, Sean McDermott has always had like Brian Flores' number. The Bills have beaten the Dolphins so many times in like his regime. Buffalo is now 5-2 in control of their division. They're fighting for the first seed. Miami so quickly blamed Tua Tagovailoa. By the way, I just don't understand that. Like he's not the problem there in my eyes.
No,
you don't think so either?
No, I mean he had like not the best, but like an okay game for how poorly the Dolphins played. I mean, 21 of 39 for just over 200 yards and an interception. I mean, nothing to write home about, but nothing to call home about either.
I mean, yeah, I'd say give him a few more years and then he'll be good. It reminds me of like just Drew Brees at the time. Drew Brees did not look good when he like first started with the Chargers. Took a few years and then became Drew Brees. You know.
Yeah.
And then so. Do you think Brian Flores and Chris Greer, the GM of the Dolphins, do you think they're just toasted? Do you think they're gone?
I mean, they're definitely on the hot seat if they're not gone by the end of the season. Tua Tagovailoa, I think that he has the makings of a franchise quarterback, and if they don't put the pieces around Tua to help the Dolphins succeed, I mean, what's the point of even having Tua then?
Yeah.
And so, yeah. If they don't figure it out and get people in there that can make that happen, then I think it's time for them to find somebody who will.
How far do you think Buffalo can go, by the way?
Dude, I think Buffalo can win the Super Bowl.
Me too.
They look so good, and I mean they're just building on their momentum from last year. I mean they look phenomenal. I mean Stephon Diggs. I mean he had a quieter game this weekend, but I mean. Always a threat. Cole Beasley now is also playing well, and yeah, I think they have what it takes.
Well, Dan, that's the end of your games, correct?
Yep, that's all of them.
So again, follow him on social media at dd.flynn. Danny, you did a great job. You had good notes, and I appreciate you coming on the show, buddy.
Thank you.
And then we'll do a cut right here. Welcome back to the Weekend Wrap-Up with Trevor Junt. I'm your host, Trevor Junt. This is Sam Taylor. His social media handle is @BatSam155. You go follow him on there. And then Sam, let's jump into your games.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trevor. So to start, we'll have the San Francisco 49ers at the Chicago Bears. The 49ers earned their 3rd win of the year, beating the Bears 33-22 in this one, which was pretty impressive considering the Bears had a 1-point lead entering the 4th quarter. But the 49ers picked away to get the win, scoring 18 in the 4th quarter. Jimmy G completed 17 of 28 passes for over 300 yards. He had no touchdown passes, but he rushed for 2 touchdowns. And then Fields had some redeeming moments, but an otherwise underwhelming game. Decent by all measures, 19 for 27, 175, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He also carried the ball 10 times, though, for over 100 yards and a touchdown. So those were the quarterback performances.
On the quarterbacks, man, Jimmy Garoppolo, I kind of him tossing his body around for that touchdown shows how much he wants to win the starting job, you know?
Yeah.
But also, 2, I think he's delaying the inevitable. It's going to happen. He's going to be replaced by Trey Lance. We just don't know when yet. I think he's just pushing that back. I think there might be 1 or 2 bad starts, and then he's done. I think it's Trey Lance.
Definitely.
What do you think about that?
I would agree. I think the 49ers, their year's not going so well, so they're in this good portion where they're able to kind of train Trey Lance, give him some in-game experience, but also provide that opportunity for Jimmy G to keep the job. It seems kind of inevitable, and if the 49ers are probably in this weird phase where they're still trying to contend this year, and they want to put the best man for the job on the field, but they also want to build for the future. So, I agree, like you said, I think it's Jimmy G's 2 bad starts away from losing that job.
Yeah. And then Matt Nagy had COVID. He missed his game, the coach of the Bears.
Yeah.
It's fun to see Justin Fields had his best game as a starter without Matt Nagy. 19 for 27, 175 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and then an amazing scramble. You saw that play, right?
Yeah.
Just touchdown. It was crazy. He rushed for 103 yards. And then I thought we saw glimpses of Justin Fields, great Justin Fields. Do you think Chicago can build around that and create a better offense around him with Matt Nagy, or do you think they wait till next year and move on with a different coach?
I think they got to move on from Matt Nagy. Just from all the games we've seen so far, Fields was at his best in this game without Matt Nagy, and so he really was able to do a decent game all around. His tight end, Jesse James, 7th-year NFL veteran, had 3 catches on 3 targets for 38 yards and a touchdown.
Oh, I got taken aback for a
good.
second right there. Did you say Jesse James?
I think so.
I didn't even know that, man. Jesse James is still in the league?
Yeah. So.
Wow. Jeez. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no worries. Yeah, it's really impressive. Unfortunately, Fields, the 49ers still sport a pretty good defense, and so Nick Bosa had 2 sacks, and Norman had kind of put the nail in the coffin on Halloween to close out that game and thwart any chance of a comeback.
And then what is your next game?
Next game is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and New Orleans Saints. And
Okay.
this was a classic. The Saints beat the Buccaneers 36-27, but it was a lot closer than the final implies. Tom Brady has faced the Saints 3 times in the regular season as a member of the Buccaneers, and once in the postseason. He's lost each of his regular season matches,
Yeah.
but won the postseason one. So Saints regular season defense against Brady is just dominant.
It's weird how Brady can't seem to beat the Saints in the regular season.
Yeah.
And then the New Orleans defense, for some reason, they shut down Brady. I mean, 3 straight regular season wins, like you said, against him. He caused 2 picks and a fumble from Brady. But it's funny, even in Brady's bad games, he goes 28 for 40, 375 yards and 4 touchdowns. I have no worries about the BUCS. They're 6-2 right now. They're still at the very top of the NFC and extremely talented. It's also Tom Brady. Tom Brady, sometimes it's just that's the X factor. You win with a better quarterback, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you think this hurts the BUCS' chances of being Super Bowl contenders?
I don't think so, and especially with what happened to the Saints. Obviously, they lost Jameis Winston out for the year with an ACL
Yeah, with
tear.
that torn ACL.
Yeah, and so Taysom Hill is the likely candidate, but he's in concussion protocol. Trevor Siemian stepped up for the Saints and honestly managed the game pretty well, completing 16 passes for 159 yards and a touchdown. And
Again,
didn't turn the ball over.
Sunday was a day for the backup quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Man. They played well.
They did. And ultimately, I think the BUCS just suffered because the Saints just shut down their rushing attack. They didn't have a runner that got more than 30 yards, and they only had 71 yards all day. Meanwhile, the Saints, their rushing attack kind of redeemed the fact that they lost their starting quarterback because they had 152 rushing yards. Granted, 40 of those were from Jameis Winston. But nonetheless, an all-around good game for the Saints offense.
So, like, even though it was a win for the Saints, I don't think the Saints are going much further without Jameis especially.
Yeah.
Taysom Hill was out this week because of a concussion. He's going to come back in, be the starter for the rest of the year. I just don't see them going very far, and I don't know how much Taysom Hill can play well and make them contenders. Do you think that they'll make the playoffs with Taysom Hill? Do you think they'll make any noise in the playoffs?
Under the 7-seed system, I think they do make the playoffs. They're a decent contender for that 7th seed or even the 6th seed.
Okay.
I don't think they get past the first round. If they do, I don't think they get past the second. I'd love for them to prove me wrong. I know I have some friends who are Saints fans, but it just is not looking good with the loss of their quarterback.
I'd agree. And then your next game is Dallas and Minnesota.
Yes.
This is a great game, man.
This was a good game. Halloween night provided some fun. So as the trick-or-treaters knocked on your door, you could watch this great game. And the Cowboys arose victorious over the Vikings, 20-16. And it was the day of the backup quarterbacks. This Cooper Rush, who now has the starting job with Dak Prescott out, completed 24 of 40 passes. Not the great, but not the best, but not the worst. He had over 300 yards passing, and he outperformed Kirk Cousins, who's getting paid a lot more money than him, and won the game with the game-winning drive.
I think Cooper Rush is getting paid less than $1 million. I think Kirk Cousins is getting paid $31 million.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But yeah, and I don't know if you noticed this, but this is like an advanced stat. Cooper Rush to Amari Cooper touchdown is the first time where a quarterback's first name and a wide receiver's last name were the exact same.
That's cool.
That's a great stat.
Yeah.
And then Amari had a great game. Did you see that game? I mean, the throw at the end where he just threw it to like Rashad Breeland, and then it bounced off Rashad Breeland. Amari Cooper was just right there. He caught the ball.
It was destiny.
Yeah,
There we
apparently.
go.
And then primetime Kirk Cousins showed up. That's just usual primetime Kirk Cousins. Just can't do well.
Yeah, Vikings were 1 for 13 on third down in this match.
Yeah, geez, man, just straight cannot play
Yeah.
well. Thielen had 78. Jefferson had 2 receptions for 21 yards. And KJ Osborne had 2 receptions for 10 yards. Greg Joseph, the kicker, scored the majority of their points with 9 points, 3 field goals. Mike Zimmer, I think, is on the hot seat. And if it's the hot seat, if it's on the Iron Throne, it's on the molten hot Iron Throne. I think that he could be a solid defensive coordinator, but in the modern NFL, I don't think he's a good coach. What's your opinion on Mike Zimmer? Do you think he's fired soon? And if he's fired, do you think move on from Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, I think the Vikings, they've had the ingredients with Adam Thielen and paying Kirk Cousins over $30 million. Just they're spending the money, they've got the tools that they need to win, but it's just not coming together. They're not getting it done, and so I think Mike Zimmer's been in Minnesota for a while, and if the Vikings just can't get over the hump, I think he might be out of a job for the next year or two.
And then back to the Cowboys. The Cowboys are 6-1. They're such a fun team to watch.
They
by the
are.
way.
Yeah.
I love watching them. I think their ceiling is winning the Super Bowl. Do you believe in Dallas as Super Bowl contenders? Do you have any concerns with them at all?
I do believe in Dallas. However, it is a crowded NFC, so we'll have to see
True.
how they perform. The advantage is that, unlike the Saints, it is looking like they're going to get Dak Prescott back as soon as this week, and so that certainly plays to their advantage because this was a close game with a backup quarterback. If Dak Prescott's in this game, maybe it's not so close, but nonetheless, they won this game with their backup Cooper Rush, and they've got a decent quarterback in Dak Prescott and a balanced team. Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb each had over 100 yards receiving in this game, so they've got some threats in the air. Ezekiel Elliott is their runner, keeping their offense balanced.
He also helped win that game.
Yeah.
Ezekiel Elliott, that one of the plays at the end of the game to get the first down on 3rd and 11.
Yeah.
Ew. Looked like the old Zeke. And that's the end of your games. Is that correct? Or do you have one more?
Next would be your game, though.
Awesome, yeah. So my game is Pittsburgh and Cleveland. So, I mean, Pittsburgh really shocked me. I didn't see this game. I didn't see him winning this game at all. Big Ben played fine is what I would say. Like, not good, not bad. 22 for 34, 266, and 1 touchdown. Pittsburgh, brand new O-line, played well in this game, allowing only 2 sacks and 115 team rushing yards. Najee just needs to touch the ball. He's a playmaker. Yeah. Najee's amazing. He had 26 carries, 91 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 catches for 29 yards. And then, I don't know if you saw this, but they lost their kicker earlier in the game. Yeah, because of a fake field goal.
Yeah, out with a concussion, it looked like, and that really affected their play calling. Mike Tomlin said in his post-game press conference that they just had to, redesign their offense and their offensive considerations when kicking was just out of the picture for them. Yeah. Well,
and then they went on 4th down, and Pat Fryermuth made that spectacular, like, juggling, body control, tippy-toe, drag touchdown.
Yeah.
You know? That was so much fun. That was cool to watch. And then on Cleveland's side, first let me ask you, what's your feeling about Pittsburgh and Big Ben before we jump into Cleveland?
I think this is Big Ben's last year in Pittsburgh, if the Steelers can find a suitable replacement.
Okay.
With like in the draft or in free agency, because Big Ben's been in the league since 2004, I think, and so he's had some times this season where he's not looked too good. Though he is still serviceable. I think he's probably still top 20 in a league of 32. It's not saying much, but he's still of starting material, and so I think if the Steelers can find a replacement for Big Ben, then Steelers could see themselves as a new quarterback. But if not, Big Ben's valuable. Ben Roethlisberger is valuable as a member of that franchise.
Okay.
And he's been in the league a long time, so he knows how to talk. Obviously, Myles Garrett had that quarterback tombstone yard that he talked about, and in response to that, Roethlisberger said post-game, he can keep the tombstones in his yard. I'll take the win.
Nice.
So he knows how to
talk.
He
does know how to talk. And then on Cleveland, Baker, again, game managing is all really Baker needs to do. But with his torn labrum, it's not good. 20 for 31, 225 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, though. Nick Chubb didn't play terrific. He went 16 carries for 61 yards. No wide receiver went crazy. Jarvis Landry had 65 yards. And then OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., had 1 catch for 6 yards. That is the least amount he's ever had in any game in his career, which is wild to me. And then Cleveland, their defense played well, I would say. They only allowed 15 points. That's a good game. Their offense just needs to step up and then help their situation. Myles Garrett now leads the league with 10.5 sacks. He had 2 sacks in this game. The second most is Harold Landry III, and DJ Watt with 8.5. I hope he's coming for that record. I think I've said it on the show before, but do you realize how the sack record was broken? Yes, Michael Strahan had 21.5 sacks, and then Brett Favre sat down on the ground and let Michael Strahan touch him to get the last sack.
Wow.
So that record is tainted for me. I don't believe in that record. I don't go by that record. Michael Strahan doesn't have the record in my eyes. So I'm hoping Myles Garrett goes for the record and gets 22.5. I mean, more than 22.5, like 23.5 or just 23 or something like that. And then this is just weird to me. After the playoff win last year, it was supposed to be Kevin Stefanski taking over the division. It was supposed to be Cleveland taking over the division over Pittsburgh. They were in the wild card mix now. Right now, they're 4-4. They can totally make the playoffs. But still, it's just tough. It's tough to see this kind of stuff. Do you see the Browns as playoff contenders, or where do you think they're going from here?
I think the Browns are definitely playoff contenders. It's good news for Cleveland, who has the longest playoff. They broke that streak now, but they've just not had a lot of success.
Yeah.
Over the years, we've seen them make the playoffs in recent years, and so I think that they just keep going up. And they may not win the division this year in a crowded division like the AFC North, but I think they make the playoffs in one of the 3 wild card slots.
It seems so weird too, because at the start of the year they were Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah.
They were absolute Super Bowl contenders. It looked like they could be Super Bowl champions, and then now they're just maybe like a 6 or 7, maybe 5 wild card spot. That's a big dip.
It is, yeah.
So I think that's the end of all of our games, Sam. I appreciate you coming on my show. You know your stuff pretty well, buddy, and you do your stats well. So thank you very much. This has been the Weekend Wrap with Trevor Junt. We'll see you next week.